Cleon P. Christensen is sitting on the couch before me, soon to turn 90 years old in just a month. Dad, tell us about the P wagon.
This is rather a unique opportunity for me to relate back to my youth as a small boy in the town of Ephraim, where I was born. I can distinctly remember many things that the opportunity that the children of today do not have a chance to relate to. And I'd like to put down for posterity some of the experience I had as a small boy. I can distinctly remember at the age of about 7, my father, your grandfather, buying me a little Mustang that had been captured out on the desert, and he bought it for me, and I rode that constantly from day to day. We used to, I had a friend by the name of Evan Nielsen, the same age, and he had a little paint ponies, pinto. And we would gather up the milk cows in the neighborhood and take them up in the foothills of Ephraim and herd them all night long while they grazed. I can distinctly remember taking corn and potatoes up there and building a fire and roasting the corn and the potatoes in the fire, and how good they tasted. I can still taste the burnt potatoes, the peelings where the skin would be burned black and you would peel off the black and eat the potatoes, half raw, half cooked. Another experience I had that you will never experience is that they had a pea industry down in Ephraim, the only industry they had at that time. And that was a pea factory, and the farmers raised quite a number of acres of peas. And they would bring it down with a team and a wagon and a hay rack down the street to haul it to the pea vinery. And there was always a gang of kids chasing around there, pulling the pea vines from the wagon, and then go take them over to a ditch bank someplace and sit there and eat raw peas.
In other words, they stole the peas as fast as they could get them off the passing wagon. Is that what you're saying?
They were tangled up on the wagon, so it was difficult to pull them from the line and pull them from the wagon. But we managed to get enough so that everybody got a taste of it. And what a change it would be now. Then, why, if the teamsters seen the little boys didn't get enough peas, they would take a pitchfork and pitch the peas off the wagon so everybody got peas. There was no, I would imagine now why the teamsters would holler and make the kids quit pulling the peas from the wagon. But back in those days, they were a happy bunch, they were singing, everybody had a good time on it. As a small boy, every night, why, we would have played Run My Sheepy Run and Kick the Can. There was a light pole, the town of Ephraim had light poles strung down the middle of the road. There was no paved road at that time. It was all just dusty road. And the light poles would be in the center of the street. And we would always, there was a gang of boys, girls, playing Run My Sheepy Run and Kick the Can. And just having a good, clean time of it.
I've heard you talk about hitching up your little pony and going to see your grandmother over in Spring City. Look up while you're talking. Look up and this other way.
Look at the camera.
The means of locomotion at that time was horses. There was no cars. And I can remember a small town Spring City was where my grandmother lived. And she was up in her 70s or 80 years old. And I can remember this little pony. My father would hook her up to a little fancy little buggy with the top and the box on the back. And we would start out early on the Sunday morning to go over and have Sunday dinner with my grandmother over there. And it would be an all-day trip over there and have dinner and come back. And it would be late afternoon time we come back. And I can remember how tired that little pony was pulling that way when we got back home. And she was ready to call it a day.
So was that you and your dad and mother?
That would be my mother and father and myself.
And the little wagon then held the three of you.
It was just a one-seat buggy. Maybe you see
Yeah.
pictures of it.
Tell us about Orson and Andrew that lived there on the block. Did they?
My mother's two brothers lived with my grandmother next door to us. And,
Okay, now if the one grandmother lived in Spring City, which grandmother lived?
the one in Spring City was my father's mother.
Oh,
The one next door to me was my mother's mother and two brothers.
I see.
And, we were in contact with them all the time.
Well, I've heard you talk about, because the two brothers lived there and your mother, you played cards a lot when you were little.
No, I didn't play cards. The game of Slough and 500 was a standard game of cards that we used to play, but that was later on when we moved to Vogel.
Oh.
That my mother and a neighbor moved up from Ephraim. That was after my father died, and we lived in Vogel, and you have to have three players to play Slough. And so they taught me when I was in junior high, I guess. They taught me how to play Slough so we could
had to be.
have a game of cards every day. This neighbor loved to play cards, loved to play Slough. There was no money involved in it. It was just a pleasure game.
Mm-hmm. What kind of chores did you have to do? What kind of work did you do when you lived in Ephraim?
I was too little to play.
Okay, how old were
One
you?
little thing I done was ride my little horse all the time. And, I must have been rather small to be have a horse, but every spring, I'd never ride her in the winter, but every spring, it was time to get the little horse out and ride up and down around town.
I've heard you talk about sleigh riding from the hill too, but
On the outside of our house, or on the street, there was no cement sidewalk, it was just dirt. I can remember this one uncle of mine always had a job of snow plowing, and they had a V-shaped snow plow like this. And I can remember he had sleigh bells on the harness of his horse, and you could always hear him coming down cleaning the snow off the sidewalks with his team of horses and sleigh riding. So, and down this street, there was a small slope, and we used to get to the top and then ride the sleigh down, and there was a Springville Creek that come out where it was Springville, Ephraim Creek that come down out of the canyon. And it went through our yard and across the road and continued further north and east out of Ephraim. And a good
probably
sleigh,
west.
a good sleigh ride. We started at the top of the hill and tried to run and then jump on the sleigh and tried to ride clear down. And there was a culvert crossing the road for the water to run through. And we had a good ride. We would ride down the hill and go through that And there would be a small pond on the other side of the
Culvert.
culvert. And right that, and that's where we stopped. And we'd come back up the hill and try again.
So you'd go under the culvert?
We go through the culvert.
Yeah, through the culvert.
It was an entirely different type of living the kids have now with the mechanized deal. Rather primitive. Water, there was no modern fixtures in the house, but we had a hydrant, tap water hydrant outside the house, and you had to go out and bring a bucket of water in. There was always a little table or bench where the water bucket was, with the dipper there, and you drank the water out of your dipper. I remember in the winter months there, I believe I've told the kids before that we would clean the stove lids off with cold stove. Nothing but cold stoves in those days. And we would clean the grate jar with the lids of the stove and then peel potatoes, slice potatoes, and put them on the hot stove, and just like potato chips. And that was a treat that we had in the winter months there. We'd sit there around the stove, and I remember I'd come in and my feet would be cold, and we would open the oven door and put her feet in the oven there and get her feet warm. Can you picture yourself doing that now with the electric stove? I'd like to relate a lot of the experience that I had. I can't think of them right now, but this little horse I had was shot in those days. The guys going out on the desert and catching these wild horses. It was difficult to catch them, so they would do what they call creasing. They would shoot with a rifle and shoot through the just below the edge of the mane on their neck, so it nicked the vertebrae on the neck and they stung them. And that's the way they catch them. This little Mustang had been shot like that, and I fell off a horse many times because every time you go right along, and some boy or kid would shoot a cat pistol, if anything with a bang to it, why, that horse would put on all four brakes, and boy, I'd go off in the horse. That was kind of an experience. One time. It was an enjoyable time of life. I looked back.
What about your siblings, your brothers and sisters and that?
I can't remember. My two brothers were married, and it didn't seem like I had much.
You were the baby of the
I
family.
was the baby of the family. And we had to improvise our own games. Our parents in those days didn't seem to have much time for pleasure. It was all work and no play.
So what did your dad do to earn a living?
Like I said before, in Ephraim, the only industry in Ephraim that I can remember of was the pea vine, and that was purely summer work. And he was just like everyone else, right? He'd got a job, whatever come up for him. That there was working for the farmers, irrigating, and any type of manual labor. It was all manual labor. Even when he first married your grandmother, he was herding sheep, and he used to tell about how Butch Cassidy, members of Butch Cassidy gang would visit the camp, and they never would sleep in the camp wagon or the tent where he was. They'd always go off to the cedar trees and sleep out in the cedar trees. away from any chance of being caught. And he had orders from his owner of the sheep outfit. I think it was a banker down there, he owned the sheep, but he had orders from him that if any of those members of the Butch Cassidy gang came and wanted anything, to give it to them. Never try to be sport and do anything foolish with it. That was about it.
Yeah.
I
How old?
remember relating that, I believe it was in a little town in Spring City that one of the members' mother died. And they said that he came riding into town on the day of the funeral to look at his brother for the last time. And he was heavily oraned and riding his horse into town. And looking at his brother and then getting on his horse and riding back downtown. No one tried to capture him. Kind of a rough country.
Yeah. How old were you when you, you were born in Ephraim?
I was born in Ephraim.
And then how old were you when you moved?
I don't think there was any doctor in those days. They had what they called midwives that come around and that was, I was a large baby when I was born. I think
13 pounds, you said.
I think I was, what?
You told me 13 pounds.
13-pound baby when I was born. Here I am, a little short girl, running now.
How old were you when you moved to Provo?
I was in the 3rd grade in Ephraim, and my brother Lamar was teaching school here and working part-time in the post office. And they built those Ironton steel plant here in Provo. And he got my father a job as a carpenter. And he worked all during the construction of the steel plant out there as a carpenter. And when the completion was completed, or steel plant was built, why, he stayed on and got a job as a watchman. So that was his, he worked as a watchman until he died. He died of cancer. And we lived out there. They had a company house in the south end of the steel plant, and there was a canal that furnished water for the plant, and they rented him. He rented the house for a minimum sum of money, and lived in the house. He and my mother and myself lived in that house out there, and his job was to watch over that canal and see that no trespassers looking with the water, because that water was vital to the plant.
Where were you baptized?
I was baptized in the Mapleton temple. And last time I went to the temple, the baptismal font was still down there. It wasn't in use, but they had it like in the glass window there. You can see it. Have you seen it?
Well, yeah, the baptismal font that they use for baptisms for the dead. Is that the same one that you?
No, that was I think they had a baptismal font in Ephraim in the church, but church caught on fire or something, and so they, during that time when I was baptized, everybody went to baptize in the temple there, and all the young kids were baptized in the Mapleton temple.
Can you remember the day or who baptized you or anything?
No, that's too far back.
Were your parents active in the church at all?
Where's that what?
Were your parents active in the church at all?
No, my parents were. They went occasionally, but not consistently. I can remember going to my father's priesthood meeting occasionally, but that was it. I remember how I never enjoyed it because we would sit there squirming around and this small kid like that, just feeling much old talk.
Hasn't changed much.
Did you play marbles or any other games?
Marbles, I was really good at playing marbles. And in those days, why, a glass marble was a treasure. And I can remember my first game of marbles that I played, we played for keeps, so that you kept the marbles you could knock out of the ring. And I developed into a good player. I can remember the pleasure I got out of getting some new glass marbles. My neighbor's kid took them from, I believe Salt Lake or something like that. He come up and lived with his grandfather across the street from him. He had some marbles, and I won most of his marbles from him. Well, that was funny. Now you go to the store and buy all the marbles for 10, 15 cents. Back in those days, a glass marble, boy, it was a treasure. Very seldom. You always had, I think you called them
Aggies?
Niggies or something like that.
Aggies.
Huh?
Aggies, aren't they?
Aggie.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard you tell about when somebody put a caterpillar down your shirt.
Well, that was it when I was here in the high school in Vogel.
Oh, was it? I thought it was down Ephraim.
And I can't remember the girl's name. She dropped the caterpillar down the back of my neck. It went down my back, and I never knew until then that a caterpillar was similar to a porcupine. And the tips of the fuzz on the caterpillar would come off and penetrate your skin. I broke out in a rash with it, and I had to leave school, go home to take a bath and scrub those things off my back there. It was really a poisonous deal. I never realized it. Didn't know now.
Did your dad teach you how to hunt, Dad? Did
Did
your
my fa-
dad teach you how to hunt? Or did
Yes,
you just,
my father loved to hunt. In fact, all my family was hunting. Back in those days, there was a lot of deer. And we always went up and we never got less than a 4-point deer. Anybody that shot a spiked deer or a small deer was really
hard up?
moved at it. So we always shot the big deer. But in those days, the older men, there was no what we call sportsmen now. Like I've been all my life here, like to be told anyway. They never had time for, it was a case of necessity. If they got a deer, well, it was valued as a source of meat instead of for the sport of hunting a deer. Just to go out and shoot deer was no big thrill.
So where did you put the meat?
Well, also your deer hunting time was in the fall, so you could keep the meat. The nights was cool enough. I can distinctly remember my father had a rather large dirt cellar. And I can remember going down, they had steps going down the end of it. And walking down and opened the door down there, and how cool it was. And they always had slabs of bacon that had been salt cured or smoke cured, and hams hanging from the ridge pole. And it was a good smell to walk in and smell that smoked meat, cured meat hanging there. And there was no refrigeration whatsoever, so the only time I've often thought about that, well, we didn't have meat during the summer, but if you had meat during the summer, it was something that you killed and you processed and eat. Right after killing it, you could keep it. So all your butchering and people that would be during the winter months.
So did your dad teach you how to shoot, or did you just pick that up yourself?
Oh, I just picked it up.
And he never took you hunting with him? You just picked it up yourself?
When I got old enough to shoot a gun, well, I can't remember where I got the gun, but I always had a gun. I've always had guns laying around. I've always had them. I can remember your mother's stepfather was telling me that you worked over in Eureka, and they would take a weekend off and take a team of horses and a Volkswagen and go up to Strawberry, and they would go up there and they would almost fill that Volkswagen with big lake trout that they captured up there in Strawberry Valley. Now you go up there and you're allowed 4 fish.
A wagon full.
Did you ever go fishing?
Not as a little boy, I never had fishing. Rather a unique experience I can remember is in the winter, why there would be a man come around with always with horse-drawn vehicle. He'd come around with what we call a bobsled. We'd have a sled with runners in the front and runners in the back, and a wagon was just like what you would call a Norse runner now, a box wagon like that. You'd have ice in there and fish in there. You'd ride the streets of Ephraim there selling fish. Your women, you'd see the women running out and buying the fish from them. They were fish peddlers. And I don't know.
Wonder where they got the ice from, do you know?
No, I don't know that, and I don't know where they got the fish. They must have got the fish out of Strawberry Valley, that person. But like you say, there was all your lakes. I can remember moving to Provo, and every spring, why, I'm sure Venice, that your husband Rudy would relate to this. Every spring, the June suckers would come up out of Utah Lake, up Provo River, and it'd be just like in a fish hatchery. You could see hundreds of them.
Spawning, probably.
Spawning, coming up the river, and we'd have a large cane pole. That was standard equipment in the sporting goods shops. And you buy a pole and then have a wire, maybe 15 feet long, and you get big grappling hooks, and you'd have a double 2 hooks on the wire wrapped around about every foot like that, where you'd have the hooks. You'd throw that in like that, and you snag the suckers, and it was all difficult to go down and get a gun sack full of suckers. It seemed like they never would end, and now they're practically extinct.
So they were June suckers, not rainbow or other fish?
No, it was always suckers. I can remember when we first moved to Mapleton, when I'd be plowing in the spring, and the seagulls, that you'd have you relate to that, but the seagulls would always follow your plows and get the worms from the turned over soil. And that was the time to
Go
go
fishing,
down
huh?
sucker fishing. But it was wasteful too. You'd stop and think you'd go down and you always had a gun sack, and you'd fill a gun sack full of suckers. I'm sure my parents and everybody else that done it never eat all the fish that they brought back. There was a great deal of waste for it.
Did they salt it or dry it or anything
No.
that way?
No.
Just fried it?
Well, I do it when there was always fish.
Yeah.
I can remember every fall, my father would always have a couple pigs, and that was standard equipment for everybody in Ephraim to raise raise their meat, and you always had a milk cow too, and you raised the calves, and that was your beef that you butchered in the fall, and they always had raised a couple of hogs or pigs. I remember that they had these professional butchers come around, and they would kill the pigs and then stone them. They always had a barrel of boiling hot water. And I remember they building a tripod or having a tripod that they would hook onto the pigs, and they'd douse those pigs up and down in that stone and hot water. And I can remember them always going along and pulling the hair, and when they got boiled enough, why the hair would come through. That was the time they'd lift them up, and they had scrapers, what they called scrapers. They would scrape all the hair off of the pigs. And when they got through with those pigs, as clean the hair as a newborn baby. They were really clean. It was quite an experience to see that. Some of those butchers would slit the throat, the jugular vein in the pig, and then turn them loose in the yard and let them run till the blood supply was exhausted, and the pig would die. Lay there. When that was time, then they'd clean them out. And the women, my grandmother and neighbors' women, there was always help. And they would sit there and scrape the intestine out, small intestine, if I remember right. And they had a board, a table with board on there, and they'd ease the intestine out and take a knife and scrape it off so you had just a very thin membrane, and that's what, then they take I've got it in here, to have a steer horn scraped out so it's just a shell, you put that at the end of the intestine.
That was the funnel, huh?
And that was when you sit, I remember those women sitting there with a funnel, and pushing that ground up meat, they grind the meat up and pushing that sausage down in the casing. So something I can remember that kind of makes me nauseated now is they always had big long tapeworms. These pigs would have. They scrape them out. I remember those worms wiggling around. But their tenderloin from your pig, that was always a treat. When the butcher would clean the pigs out, they give the women the tenderloin. I remember how good that meat tasted. They'd take it in everybody was working there with the butcher, got a piece of that fresh tenderloin meat. It was good.
So did your dad milk the family cow, or did you ever milk it?
No, I was too little. I was too small. He always milked. He hid the ear of my mother. Women would get out, those days women got out and milk cows right along the land. Most of them did anyway. I guess there were some of the really well-to-do people that women never did it, but that was a different class of persons that we never had the opportunity to associate with.
What was the first car you had, or that your family had?
When we moved to Provo, my dad had a Journey milk cow, a family milk cow. And we brought that up there, and I remember he had it just for a short time, and he traded it for a Model T Ford. First First car we ever had was a Model T4.
You don't remember how old you were, or
Well, I was, like I say,
about junior high?
I was in the third grade
Mhm.
when we took third grade. I remember my brother Lamore coming down to Ephraim. I was a little kid. And he bought a piece of school up here. He bought a Model T4. He was down in Model T4. And he took my father, your grandfather, for a ride. And they went out below Ephraim, out along the railroad tracks. And we crossed the tracks, and there was a gate on there. Your grandpa sit there back of the wheel, and said, whoa, 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 trying to stop the car. And he went right through the gate. He had to
Oh dear.
refinish the gate up. He busted the gate. But I can remember your Uncle Joe's father, Vern Dunn, came down there on a motorcycle. He'd been a policeman up here, a motorcycle cop. And he came down there, and that Ephraim had what they called jumbo clay on the roads all over. And if they got wet, it was almost impossible to drive. And he came down on his motorcycle, and he tried to go back home, and it rained constantly while he was down there. There was so much mud that it clogged up his wheel of his motorcycle. He had to catch a ride on the old Sand Peak train to get back to Vogel and leave his motorcycle out there. He couldn't drive the motorcycle because it was clogged up with mud. Rough time to live. Yeah, it was an enjoyable time.
How did you and Mother meet?
How did what?
You and Mother meet.
How did my mother and I...
How did you meet Mother?
Oh. The only entertainment we had here was the last year of high school and stuff like that was going to public dance. And I had a friend by the name of Leonard Harris. And he and I always went every Saturday. We'd go to a dance. And in those days they had public dances all over the Utah Valley. Over here, Spanish Fork, Springville, Salem, Payson, you name it, but they always had an open dance. And the orchestras, they always had good orchestras going there. So, and I remember, I can't remember why, but this one Saturday night when I couldn't go for some reason or other, and Leonard was over there to the dance with someone else, and he came back and he was telling me he had a really good dancer and a good-looking girl. He was kind of raving about this girl, so that Saturday we went over, and I think it was Spanish Fork dance over there, and I come when I seen this good-looking girl, and she was really popular. Everyone wanted to dance, and I went up and got a dance for her. In those days, you never had a card, preferred card that you do. You just went up and asked the girl to dance. If she wanted to dance with you, she said yes. If she didn't want to, she said no. So,
They didn't have cards?
huh?
She didn't have a card?
No.
Oh, that surprises me.
And there was always a line of the girls lined up against the wall, we call them wallflowers. Would be asked to dance, and you sit there waiting for some boy to come and ask him for a dance. And I danced with this girl, and I became infatuated. I never, I was a freelance writer when it came to girls those days there. That was the furthest thing from my mind to ever falling for any single girl. I was playing the field. In fact, we all were. And I met your mother, and I really felt hard, you know.
Okay, she went to California, then how did you end up? I mean, how long did you date before you
Not
decided?
very long. I
Months,
can't remember
weeks?
how long, but it was a very short time. Like you say, I looking back now, thinking, gosh, there I was, footloose and fancy-free, and
21? Were you 21?
I met your mother, and nature's wonderful. How did you get paired up with somebody that all at once or something?
Yeah, but weren't you 21?
I was
No, he was
20
born in
I was
1914.
23 years old.
Oh,
when I met-
23.
Yeah, you're 23.
Wow.
She was 16.
So what,
17.
did you write to her and propose to her while she's in California, or
Well,
what?
she let me read a letter that I wrote to her down in California, made me sick in my stomach. She, I never realized I could write a letter like that.
So what, did you propose to her through the mail then, or what?
No, if I remember right, why, we became engaged. She was almost semi-engaged to some fellow over there. I cut him out. And we became engaged, and she went down to California to get a job to earn a trousseau. She never had a trousseau. So she wanted one, and she went down there with her Uncle Ellis, and she got a job with some admirals and his wives, rich people who was admiral in the Navy. And she had a little apron, and she met George and had the cards, like you see in the movie. And she worked there. I stood it for about a month or 6 weeks, and couldn't take it anymore, so I went down. I can't remember how I went down. I must have taken a bus. I went down there and pushed her off the street and brought her right home.
I thought she went down there to try and decide, because she was like you said, semi-engaged to Rex, and she liked you too, and so she went to California to sort it all out.
No, she went down to get the truth.
Okay. Mother will have to solve that one.
So when you came back up, did you not even stop at the house in Santa
When we
Quinn?
came back up, why, I can't remember. I guess my brother Lamar met me at the bus station, met us, and he's friends with the county clerk. And it was after 5 o'clock, courthouse closed, but he phoned him up and made him, we got him to come up to the courthouse, and well, he was pushing to get us married. Everybody liked your brother in my family. And I guess they wanted to see, get rid of me. So through him, this guy come up to the courthouse and opened up his office and married your mother and I. We never even stopped and talked to your mother's parents over there. They had a grudge against me for a long time because they weren't invited to the wedding. There was no wedding.
Well, I don't blame them.
Well, I don't either. It was the wrong thing to do. Yeah, it was the wrong thing to do.
Didn't Grandma come to the, there was a party that Uncle LeVar had for you after you got married?
Yeah, she got.
She came to she's in the picture, I think. Isn't Grandma in the picture?
I think so, but that was after we were married.
So it wasn't a grudge so bad that she wouldn't come to the wedding party, because she actually was there
Well, yeah, well, this was a shower, give it to us after
after you got married.
we were married. Yeah, it was the wrong thing to do.
You were young and in love. Mother, did she get her trousseau?
She never did get it. I bought her a dress to get married to go.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Her parents were, I don't know, they never gave her anything or offered to help in any way.
So you bought her a dress?
I bought her a dress.
She didn't get any of her clothes, that's what I heard.
Well, he took her away and didn't even invite him to the wedding.
I know, but that's no reason not to let her come back and get her belongings.
The only thing she got from home is she had, I imagine, a half a dozen dancing gowns. What did she call them?
Formals.
Formal, yeah. That was the only thing that she got them. And that was because it didn't fit any of the other kids, I imagine. But she played the saxophone. You've got pictures of her playing the saxophone, leading the band, and drum major. And they even kept the saxophone.
Did you ever play any instruments?
Played the violin all through high school.
Did you?
Your grandfather, my father, was an old-time fiddler. And I can remember when out here, this home we lived in after we moved to Vogel, we moved out of that house, and they had a big room.
Just a minute. Okay, you had a big room.
They had a big room in the house, and they rolled the carpet up against the wall, and then my father would play the fiddle, and there'd be a banjo player and usually a guitar player, and they would play the old-time dances and everything we'd have. They would have a dance late in the night. Quite an occasion to have the old-time dances like that. He played all the time. He was what you call an old-time fiddler. He got the violin.
So did you play his
But,
violin?
I was the baby of the family, and he wanted every one of the kids to play the violin, and none of them wanted to, me included. But I was the last hope for him, so he made me take the violin. I took the violin from junior high up through high school, played the high school orchestra. When I graduated from high school, I put the violin away and forgot about it. I remember I used to just hate it. Never got good at it.
So you learned how to play through the school system then? He didn't teach you how to play?
No.
Where did he learn how to play?
In high school, teacher, music teacher.
Didn't he come from Denmark?
I never knew till years after he died that I thought he was born in the United States. But he was born in Denmark, and he came here as a small boy, just a small boy. And he never did take out his citizenship papers or anything. So actually, he never was a
U.S. citizen?
U.S. citizen.
Really? I didn't know that either.
But he just assumed citizenship. But,
How old was he when he came over, do you know?
Very small.
Did he buy the violin here, or did he bring it with
I
him?
don't know. I don't know where he got the money.
Huh.
Sometimes he climbed when I managed to get a little bird out of play. Everywhere he's heard cheap one. Pastime away, he got picked out too.
What about the harmonica?
That I picked up myself. I can remember, I was the only boy in Ephraim. They had what was it called, an epidemic, membranous croup going through Ephraim. Is that infectious?
I would imagine it'd be like whooping cough, but I don't know.
There was epidemic anyway through Ephraim, and I got it. And I remember they wouldn't allow me to put my nose outside the door for a solid year. I stayed in the house a solid year before I can remember. It was just like getting out of prison when my father took me outside for the first time after that. But the way the doctors, I was the only boy in Ephraim that survived them. And when they get so bad, where the doctors would come up and have silver tube they would put down through the kid's throat so they could breathe. And I can remember him coming up there and wanting to put that down when my mother and father wouldn't allow him to do it. But we had a cold heater in the front room. Pot-belly, what we call a pot-belly heater. And then we build a fire in it. That's where I lived practically for the year around. And they get that stove almost cherry red hot. And put me in the rocking chair and put rat blankets and stuff around me, and moved me up as close to the fire as they could. And I'd sit there and sweat, and sweat would just pour out of me. That's what they figured saved my life was the old sweat. And then you know what alum is? They put a chunk of alum in my mouth. I had to sit there and suck all that sickening alum out of it.
What was that? What would that do? Does that kind of break up the congestion or something?
What's the bad? Whatever it does, right? Saved my life.
I thought you said that when you had that, you remember, I don't know, at some point you said you remember that you were like an out-of-body experience.
Oh, that was when I had scarlet fever.
You had scarlet fever besides membranous croup?
Well, I guess I was in my senior high school, and there an uncle of mine come in from the sheep outfit out in Colorado from the ranch, and they had a little boy, maybe 5 years old, 6 years old, and he and I got sick. I was going back with him for a vacation to stay with him for a while, and we both got sick, and they still took us and we went down as far as Duchesne and Mapleton, and he had a brother out there on the Augustin Ranch, and we went in there and was really sick.
You were in high school, you said?
What?
You were high school age?
Yeah, I was we was in there, we brought that file on after it was scarlet fever. But we were in there on that, and his brother, married man with 2 or 3 kids, he got it. He died from it. And this little nephew of mine, and I got so sick that they decided to bring us home, I guess, to die back to Springville here. And when we go back there, why he died, and I managed to live through it.
What was explain what happened to this?
What?
Explain about this out-of-body experience.
Oh, when I was laying out there in the ranch house out in Duchesne, I guess I was just on the verge of dying. And I was kind of rough primitive living. They were living in there. They had an outdoor toilet and everything. And I had to go to the toilet bathroom, I'd have to go out in that outdoor toilet. I remember they laughed about, it was in the winter, the snow was deep, and I couldn't keep on the path going out. I'd waver side to side, couldn't make it out to the toilet without going out in the snow. I can remember coming back and getting in bed, and I could look down and see my body laying in the bed there, and I was floating up above the bed. I guess it was just delirium or something. I was out of my mind with fever. I can remember after I started recuperating from that scarlet fever, I could take my arms like this, and just like a snake skin, I could feel the skin, thin outer layer of skin, my skin would be burned up, scarlet fever. That was before the day of sulfa drugs or penicillin or anything like that. It was just primitive medicine.
What were you were mentioning something about dental work, that they didn't have dentists back then? So if you had like a toothache, did you ever have teeth pulled, you know, by the?
Oh, yeah, it was, that was, I blame my parents for not insisting on it. I was practically on my own and making decisions. I'd get toothache and I'd go to a dentist, I remember his name was Dr. True. I went to a dentist there and he was drilling out my tooth to make it. I'd go till I got a toothache, and then you always went to the dentist. You never went and had work done on your teeth like your kids do now.
There was no preventative dentistry then?
No, there was no.
It was just when you had a problem you went?
And I remember that he was drilling out my tooth, and he had his tray of instruments over by his lap there, like when I was sitting in the dentist. And he hit my nerve in my tooth.
Ooh.
I remember it just felt like the top of my head came off. My knees came up and I knocked his tray of tools over the dentist's office. The only remedy then was pull the tooth. So he pulled through. So now I was foolish. Every time I get a toothache, instead of having it drilled and filled, I said, pull it out. So that's,
Well, when you were a little boy, didn't you, tell me if this is correct, it was either Orson or Andrew that had something wrong with their mouth, with their tooth, and they did something to their teeth, and because of it, he went deaf?
My Uncle Orson was stone deaf. And he blamed it on that they had a traveling doctor come into Ephraim every so often. They never had a doctor at that time when he was afflicted. And he said they had four guys, 4 people, they laid him on the kitchen table, and one got on each leg, one got on each arm and held him there. And this doctor cut his tonsils out, and I really anesthesia.
Oh.
He said, I can remember feeling that crunch, or hearing that crunch as the instrument cut his tonsils out. And he always figured that's what caused him to go deaf.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was...
Which I don't think had anything to do with it, but that was your rough horse doctor of medicine. I imagine the doctor would be more of a veterinary when he did treat both animals and humans.
Was he deaf in both ears or just one ear?
Oh, he was totally deaf.
Totally deaf.
We took your, what is it, hearing aid. I can't remember if we took it down or had somebody, representative from hearing aid, go down there and put one in his ear. And he could hear with the hearing aid, but he'd been deaf for so long that the noise didn't do him any good. He couldn't understand anybody talking, what they were talking about.
Oh.
so he wouldn't have anything. But he was very, thinking back of it, he was starting, in his later years, he losing his eyesight also. We bought him a pair of glasses, we had him go to have the glasses, and he'd stoke up the fire in the cold range, and he'd always take his glasses off because he was afraid the glare of the fire
Break them?
would affect his glasses. That's how backward he was in his thinking.
So what happened to the what do you mean? So he lost his glasses or something?
No, he just would always take them off when he'd stoke the fire because he didn't want to wear them out.
He thought the fire would wear the glasses out.
Well, was he deaf when he was a little boy? So, I mean, do you have problems talking if he was deaf?
Of course.
Oh yeah, well, you've heard people,
See, I wasn't around. I never met him.
they can't hear their own voice, and they always talk.
So since you lived as many years as you have, what do you look as the most astounding invention or modern day life that,
Well, you stop and figure that when I was a little boy living in Meaford, the only means of locomotion was the horses, animals. There was no cars. There was no electric ranges, no refrigeration, and from that era, I've come to the point where man has landed on the moon.
yeah, I was gonna say, and they've got a ship on Mars now.
Yeah,
Yeah, rover on Mars.
yeah, they can communicate and make a machine to do what they want to do and send the message back to Earth. But to go outside and look at that moon up there, why, to think of a man going up there landing on it, why, it's unbelievable. I've lived in a marvelous age. I think the most marvelous age in the history of mankind. It's the last 50 years. Look, I can remember when they first discovered a way to have a radio, what we call it the radio now. I can remember my neighbor, his name was Beasley, run this Beasley Marble Works in Crowell. And he had a boy there who was 5 or 6 years older than me. And they were wealthy people for that time of day. And he got interested in the radio. And I can remember I'd go up to his place there in the nighttime, and he'd sit there with what he called a radio, and we'd each have a set of earphones that we'd put on, and you'd hear that scratchy voice come through, very scratchy. You could hardly understand it, but still it was, and that was marvelous. I think it's something coming out of the air, and now, look what you've got. Your television, you said, I can remember your grandfather coming home from 4 o'clock shift over to the student band, and he bought a radio, Sears robot radio. I don't forget it, it had doors in the front you'd open up, and there was a floor model radio. And he'd sit there and he loved Western music. I can remember sitting there, seeing him sit there, and he'd stay up 1 or 2 o'clock listening to the radio and listen to these Western orchestra on the radio. And now you sit and you watch a ball game and actually see the players. It's unbelievable. Your computer. Think of how that has changed the whole lifestyle. Everything's changed. Everything's wonderful.
What was it like living during the Depression?
it was rough. It was really rough. I was lucky enough to have this job at the post office. I was there. And so actually, I never suffered it. I never was flush with money, but I had a steady income coming all the time, which a lot of people didn't have. Boy, you see on the movie picture, you go to a movie picture and they always had a newsreel on before your show started. You'd see these people in the cities back east there, and they were lined up 2 blocks long for these what they call soup kitchens. They'd have people out there getting a bowl of soup, keep from starving with it. It was rough. My father and your grandfather was watchman out in the steel plant then, and he was working 4 days a week. He got paid 40 cents an hour, $3.20 a day, 4 days a week. And I can remember stopping in for him coming from high school, and there'd be 15, 20 men out around the gate of the steel plant out there waiting to see if somebody died or got fired or something, so they could step in and get a job. People were desperate for work. There was no work, no money. Now you stop and figure that a carpenter, I guess, gets $30 an hour, $40 an hour. That's more than the people back in my day got for a month's work. Your brother Larry was born, and the doctor's fee was Dr. Holloway delivered him, and the doctor's fee in those days was $50. And I paid cash for it, and I got him down to 35, so your brother was born for $35.
$35 baby.
I've loved it. All my life it seemed like I've tried to Jew the price down on everything I've ever bought. And I usually managed to do so.
Did you hear the story about the harmonica?
No, where is the harmonica?
I was totally embarrassed. Yeah, he got the guy to give it to him at cost.
Oh.
That deal there, I believe it says $100 on that, and I got it for 60.
See if you can play us two.
Yeah, is it there?
Yep.
What was I got it? Well, I got it for 60, didn't
I think so. The guy just shook his head. I was just like, oh, I was uncomfortable. He made me uncomfortable.
Now this is a harmonica that's called the chromatic. I've always wondered, this is the first one I've ever bought. I've got 4 other regular harmonicas in there. I was up in Washington here, and they asked her if there was a music store around, and she found this for me, and so we went up there.
Different.
can remember playing that when I hadn't been in school. That's where I first,
Somebody must have bought you one.
yeah, I think it was my father. I can remember him bringing me $1. And for that solid year, I kept that $1 and I didn't take it down and get dimes for it. Next time I didn't get pennies for it. Next time I didn't. That's the way I moved that money around there, was always playing with that $1. I don't know what satisfaction I got out of it, but that was about the only thing
So he must have bought you a harmonica and then you just kept working at
I
it.
imagine that's about what we're doing.
Play your Jill apart.
Usually, any song that I've heard, I've been able to pick out on the harmonica.
Well, without that chromatic, you weren't able to play all of them, were you?
Well, that harmonica brings in your sharps and flats.
Well, do you have to push it? Do you have to push that to get the
You have to
sharps?
push that in there. See the difference?
Okay. So while you're playing it, if you come to a sharp or flat in the music, then you push that and it'll
Then
play
you
it for
push
you.
that to get your sharp.
Oh, I don't see you using it. Is there a piece
Well,
that you?
most of the songs don't have them.
What's that?
Strawberry roll.
Strawberry what?
Strawberry
Oh,
roll.
that strawberry
I don't know
roll.
that one. I've
That's a
never heard
horse song. Okay, I want to ask you one last question. What bit of advice would you give any of your posterity?
Stay out of that.
Stay out of debt. Be a man of your word if you. My favorite story is my grandfather had the tax assessor come around and for a tax assessment when they was checking these livestock down there. They had this Jersey milk cow. And he commented on what a good cow that was taxing. And my grandmother knocked the price down. I said, oh, she's not worth that. She's not worth more than that. He said, I'll take her for that. And so instead of, the cow was worth a great deal more than the tax assessor said. So my grandfather didn't have the cow because he didn't want to be talked a lot, which was contrary to the line in the first place saying the cow wasn't. I never did figure that out.
We got caught.
And that was I've got a wonderful family. I look back at all you kids that we've got, your brother and I, and there's not a one of them that isn't, wonderful in my estimation. We've done a good job of raising you. You stop and figure we've got 49 great-grandkids, 24 grandkids, and there's not a blemish on any one of them. I don't think anyone out of that whole group has ever got so much as a traffic ticket.
That's exaggerating.
There's never,
Sounds good though.
there's never been a stigma of shame in the entire family. Every one of them is honorable, their word is good, they're industrious, they never have to ask for welfare or anything like that. It's a wonderful heritage I'm leaving behind.
Did the tape run out? Did
What?
the tape run out?
What experience in your life do you think you learned the most from?
Well, just a natural way of life of teaching. I was taught with a kid now. You see, at this day and age, young kids assassin their elders. If I'd ever broke in on the conversation when I was with adults or was smart in my remarks, I'd ducked hand so I wouldn't have been able to sit down. I was taught respect for my elders. I've tried to do the same thing for all of my children, and I think we've done a remarkable job of doing it.
So you didn't have an experience in your life where, you know, you just went, it was monumental, like you just really learned a lot of things?
Be with Johnny McCallum.
No, I can't say anything outstanding.
Johnny McCallum.
Well, that was just a way of life.
There's one thing I want you to talk about. Can you talk about when you were carrying mail? Kind of the pranks that were pulled?
Oh,
That was
that
funny.
was, I look back at that. I more than once we had our shoulder bag there. We always had that. We always took magazines. Back then, when I was carrying mail, they had the Home Journal and Life magazine, and heavy magazines, big magazines. And you get a bag full of those. You always had them standing on the back of the bag like this, and you put your bundles of mail in the front, and you was all feeding out of it like that. When somebody, I was one of them, who would take a brick or anything heavy and put down, we'd always load our bag up and go up to the bathroom in the post office before we leave for our routes. And you'd leave your bag, instead of packing them upstairs, you'd always just drop them down on the floor and one up there. Somebody would put a brick down underneath all the mail bags.
You're carrying that heavy weight.
Well, there, you had a 40 or 50 pound bag of mail there that you was fighting all the time anyway. When you get down to where it was really light and back over, you don't down there, down to this square brick that you've been packing all the way around on the route there, back at that. So,
You did that to somebody else?
Oh, I did it more than once like that. But I got smart
He's
on
never done
this.
anything dishonest.
We had a fellow named George Ray that worked University Avenue all the way from the post office clear up to high school up in Cleon P. And over in the outgoing cage where you handle all your outgoing mail, there would always be stamps laid around it and come off of envelopes there, the canceled stamps. They were done good, you reuse them, but I went in there and got some of those canceled stamps, wrapped, had a brick wrap there, and I put these canceled stamps on there and put it in the bottom of his bag, and he knew that he was packing the brick, but because the stamp was on there, he didn't dare discard the brick, so he packed that brick, and I addressed it clear up at the end of his route. So he had to pack it, and he packed it clear up to the end up there before he threw the brick away. I go back at him, he'd loaded me up once before on that, so.
You know, they put snakes out the cash box.
Yeah, Bob Webster, one of my friends up there, went out there when he was on early morning shift, he was still dark. They had a collection box out in front of the post office. He went out there and was unlocked it, was reaching in there to get the mail out of it, and there was a snake in it. Somebody put a snake in his box.
I hope it was a water snake.
It was a glow snake, I think. Was poison.
I was gonna tell you, Ted McAllister died.
Ted McAllister. That big. Boy, he was,
George Murray.
yeah, George Murray, who's the one that just died? Dick Danner.
No.
Dick Danner used to come out here and referee ball games on it.
Dick Danner just died this last week
Yeah.
too.
Just
As
as
I say, Dick
Yeah.
Danner, Ted McAllister, and this Murray, I couldn't think of his name, Renee, you asked who he was. We've got a picture in on the table of you and George Murray, when you used to come out here.
Gee, you know, that's what, in a way, I've outlived. I've got a picture here I can show you of the first post office group I worked with. And I'm the only one on the picture that's alive. And most of them, when we went to the second post office, most of them is gone. I've outlived.
Do you ever say amen to this?
I said there the other day, I was just thinking kind of morbidly, and was naming the people around this neighborhood that died for the time we moved out to town. And I quit at 87. 87 people that we were closely
Like the
associated.
JCs with, the Lions
And I
Club.
know there's more than that I've missed.
Shall I pull the plug?
What?
Who's gonna?
Any parting words you want to leave before we turn the machine off?
Not that I greatly appreciate your love and affection you've shown to me by wanting to know this, and I've wanted to do this for a long time to give you a picture of your kids and your grandkids that will never experience like I've done in my childhood. It's a way of life that's gone, will never come back.
Where's Chica?
Right here by me.
Oh,
Well, I wish you could yodel a song for us in your
I wish
closing
I could
remarks.
too. I wish I could too. I can't even pack a tune in.
He used to yodel all the time.
I know it.
oh, he's been singing, I'm going to highway.
That's this, one thing I want to do is here, I'm gonna take all of this, let's go Christensen and have meal.
Well, I was thinking of going home.
No,
I'm gonna pull the plug now. Can we pull the plug?
Yeah, we can pull the plug.
Put the dog out, Renee, please. Just open the door, she'll go out.